It begins in silence, no music, no warning, just the sound of uneven breathing as a pregnant woman lies awake in the dark, her eyes wide open, her body completely frozen, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, something in the corner of the room begins to take shape, not moving like a person, not breathing like anything alive, just standing there, watching her stomach. And just before we can fully understand what we're seeing, everything cuts to black, and we're thrown into the life of a man whose job is to create fear. A video game developer who once built worlds that terrified millions but now can't even scare himself, stuck in a loop of recycled ideas and growing pressure as deadlines close in and expectations rise, and at home, where he should find peace, things are no better because his wife is pregnant with their first child, and instead of joy there's distance, silence, a growing disconnect as he buries himself deeper into his work, searching desperately for something real, something original, something that feels alive. And that's when he finds it. Not in a planned moment of inspiration but buried deep in obscure forums and forgotten folklore, stories about entities that don't haunt places but attach themselves to people, to families, to moments of vulnerability, especially the moment before birth, when something new is about to enter the world, and what starts as curiosity quickly becomes obsession as he begins building a new game concept around this idea, sketching a figure that he doesn't fully understand, tall, unnaturally still, almost featureless yet somehow filled with intention. A presence that doesn't chase or attack but simply watches, waits, studies, and that same night he dreams of it, not vaguely but in exact detail as if the image wasn't created but remembered, and from that moment on something shifts because the line between his work and his reality begins to blur, and back at home his wife starts noticing things first, small changes that are easy to dismiss at the beginning. A door slightly open when she knows she closed it, footsteps echoing faintly in empty spaces, objects not quite where they were left. And she tries to ignore it until the night she wakes up and can't move, her body locked in place as her breathing grows shallow and her eyes fix on the same corner of the room where once again something stands, closer now, clearer, its attention focused not on her but on the life growing inside her, and when she finally tells her husband what she saw, every detail, every second, every feeling, something inside him breaks because it matches perfectly with what he's been seeing in his dreams, the same figure, the same stillness, the same silent awareness, and suddenly it's no longer stress or coincidence or imagination, it's something shared, something real, and instead of stopping he leans in deeper, analyzing, documenting, continuing to build the game as if understanding it might give him control, but the opposite happens because the more he works, the more active the presence becomes, the sounds grow louder, the movements more frequent, the air in the house heavier, like it's being watched from within. And slowly he begins to realize a terrifying truth, that he isn't creating anything, he's translating something that already exists, giving it structure, giving it form, giving it a way to cross over, and his wife begins to change, subtly at first, longer silences, distant expressions, moments where she seems present but unreachable, and then one night she speaks in her sleep and the voice that comes out is not hers, deeper, older, layered with something ancient and cold as it whispers words that don't feel meant for him but spoken through her. You opened the way, and from that moment the house is no longer theirs, every shadow feels intentional, every sound feels deliberate, and he finally tries to stop, deleting files, shutting everything down, refusing to continue, but it's too late because whatever connection was formed no longer depends on the game, it's already inside their lives, feeding on their fear, their attention, their existence. And as a violent storm rolls in and the power begins to flicker, reality itself starts to feel unstable, like the world inside the house is no longer fully aligned with the one outside. And his wife goes into early labor, her fear no longer about the pain but about what she can see standing in the room, waiting, patient, unmoving, as if this moment has been the goal all along, and for the first time he sees it too, clearly, without distortion or shadow, just a presence that doesn't need to act because it has already won. And in that moment he understands that this was never about haunting or possession or even fear, it was about arrival, about something using him, using his mind, his work, his obsession as a pathway into their world. And as the sounds of labor fill the room and the storm rages outside, the tension builds to a point where we expect a confrontation, a fight, some desperate attempt to stop it, but nothing like that happens, because the entity doesn't attack. It doesn't need to, it simply stands there. As if observing something inevitable, and then we hear it, a cry that doesn't sound entirely human, something slightly off, something that lingers too long, and the film never fully shows us what happens next, only fragments, sounds, silence, and then morning comes and everything appears normal again, quiet, still, almost peaceful, but that calm feels wrong, unnatural, because something has changed in a way that can't be undone. And as life seems to continue, the final realization settles in. That whatever entered their world didn't come to destroy them, it came to become part of them. And the most terrifying part of all is that there was never a moment where it forced its way in, no breaking point, no violent entry, just a slow, patient process of being noticed, understood, and ultimately allowed to exist, proving that sometimes the scariest things don't chase you, don't attack you, don't even reveal themselves fully, they simply wait for you to give them form, to give them attention, to give them a place in your life until one day you realize it was never your story to begin with, and that you didn't create the horror at all, you just helped it arrive. And that's what makes Mudborn so unsettling, because it doesn't rely on what you see, but on what you slowly begin to understand, long after the story ends.